The story kicks off with Mike beginning his new life as a freshman in college. His roommate, Kurt, introduces himself to Mike's father, John, and offers to grab him some food.
Hungry?
But Mike turns him down, since he doesn't want to spend an extra minute with his dad. In a boxing ring, Zach humbles his sparring partner during training and earns praise from his coach for hitting like thunder and fire.
All right, Zach. Smoke and thunder, baby. Smoke and thunder.
The coach tells him that his next opponent has backed out, but they've lined up someone else who is a fighter named Ortega with a 4-3 record. One of Zach's coaches thinks it's a bad matchup. They have only 3 weeks to prepare, and they know nothing about Ortega, but Zach shrugs it off and figures that, with his 5-0 record, it'll be a walk in the park.
The guy's 4-3, I'm 5-0.
Elsewhere, Tim drives home after his part-time shift and finds his mom looking troubled. When he asks what's wrong, she tries to play it cool, but after he gives her the look, she opens up about their tight financial situation. Tim praises her for how hard she's worked and offers to drop out so he can get a night job, but she refuses and promises she'll figure something out. Meanwhile, Justin, a comic book store clerk, tries to talk to a girl, and because he isn't Chad enough to pull someone like her, she calls him a dork and turns him down. Back in Mike's room, he declines a call from his dad and shows Kurt a ring fight video posted by a hacker on the college server. Kurt suggests they go outside for a bit, but Mike refuses. When Kurt presses him, Mike opens up about his dad and makes Kurt promise not to tell a soul. Later, he follows Kurt to a house party where he's dared to get Eve's number. The moment he sees her, his little man tells him she's the one, so when he tries to ask her out, she tells him she has a boyfriend and turns him down. A couple of days later, Zach faces Ortega, gets schooled like a rookie, and passes out in the ring. One night, after closing up, Justin spots Case training Tim not far from the shop. On his way home, he's ambushed by a couple of men who beat him up, and because of watching too many Andrew Tate videos, he gets stabbed when he tries to fight back. Wounded, he runs to Tim and Case for help. At first, the attackers size Tim up, but when Case shows up, they back off and retreat. Time passes, and Mike meets with Max, the secret organizer of the Beatdown event. Max briefs him on how it works and asks him to join the tournament and to help recruit some players, but Mike says he'll think about it. After his defeat, Zach visits an optician and learns that the retina in his left eye is partially detached, and he's warned to stay out of the ring if he wants to keep his eyesight. As Zach leaves the office, he spots an ad for Max's Beatdown event on a girl's computer and starts questioning his future in boxing. After work, Tim heads home and finds his siblings watching cartoons, so he asks where their mom is. Later that night, he goes to a nightclub and is shocked to see his mom dressed as a stripper, but before he can say anything, she tells him they need the money and sends him home. At the wrestling club, Mike's sparring partner mocks him about his sexuality after finding out Mike's dad left them for a man, and because Mike's straight as hell, he snaps and hits him. But when the coach tries to break it up, Mike punches him too, and is banned from ever setting foot in the gym again.
That's it! It's done for the day!
After thinking over Max's offer, Mike heads to Max's room, and on the way, he runs into Zach. When Max sees Zach asking to join the tournament, he's surprised Zach even knew about it, but Zach says Max wasn't hard to find, since the comment sections pointed him in the right direction. The two talk about signing up, so Max asks them to show him what they've got. While they spar in his room, Max sees potential, but notices they're not well-rounded fighters. He tells them they need to learn from someone who excels in all areas. He gives them a name, Case Walker, a former collegiate wrestler, Kyokushin black belt, and jiu-jitsu practitioner who trained in Brazil. Max says Case can teach them everything he knows, but only if he agrees to take them in. The boys wonder why they've never heard of Case if he's that good. Max assures them he's legit and points them to Case's dojo. They go to Case's dojo and see him training with Tim and Justin. When Case notices them, He asks what they want. They tell him they want to be his students and that Max sent them. Case tells them to piss off, calling them spineless chihuahuas. But since Mike has anger issues like a spoiled microwave, he talks back, and Zach decides to stay and back him up. Seeing their courage, Case changes his mind. He agrees to train them, but on 2 conditions. They have to pay him, and they have to clean his house. For starters, Case tells them he trains every student differently, based on their needs. He sizes them up, reads their strengths, and starts giving orders. He tells Zach to do 50 sprawls and front kicks. Zach tries to object, but Case cuts him off and tells him to do as he's told or leave. Then he bumps up the reps by 2 and puts Tim in charge of Zach's drills. Next, Case demonstrates how to punch through a piece of paper and asks Mike to recreate it. As the training begins, Mike spends the whole day trying and failing, but keeps at it until Case finally sends him home, telling him to come back the next day with another book.
And you owe me a new composition notebook. Black.
Weeks go by, and as the boys get used to the grueling schedule, they start to improve. Meanwhile, Max notices that ticket sales for Beatdown are still weak, so he comes up with a plan. On the day he's supposed to meet with Case, the boys get into an argument. Justin floors Zach for insulting his mom. When Max arrives, he sees them going at it and sees it as team bonding. Justin tries to take another swing at Zach, but the others stop him. Max, who has no sense of privacy, pulls Case aside to pitch him an idea, make some cash, and boost ticket sales by putting Case in the spotlight. Case agrees. They set up a pro-am fight night at a strip club, where contenders win $100 if they can last a minute in the ring with Case. The plan works so well that people flock to the event, hyped to see Case in action. One night, Eve shows up, and Mike is stunned to learn she's Zach's girlfriend. She stays to hang out, but when a stripper greets Zach, Justin jokes and asks if she's Tim's mom. Speaking of moms, Eve tries to break the ice with Mike by asking how his mom is doing, given what happened with his dad. The sensitive topic sets Mike off, and in his anger, he challenges Case to a fight in the ring. Instead of stopping him, Max records the match, hoping to use it for more traction. Mike, fueled by rage, goes after Case. Case warns him to control his anger, but Mike doesn't listen. He punches Case mid-speech. Case swiftly pins him down and tells him to tap out or risk a broken shoulder. Mike refuses, faced with a choice: injure his student or lose $100. Case chooses to lose the money. After that night, Justin has a change of heart and shaves his head. The next day, cops show up at Case's place and order him to leave the area. Despite Case's protests that he hasn't done anything wrong, they don't hear him out and warn him and his students to stay away. Later, Justin arrives and hears what happened. Seeing the team's concern, he points out that Mike caused Case's only loss. He talks some sense into them, and they regret letting Mike step into the ring. Feeling guilty, they try to apologize to Case, but he shuts them down and tells them to leave, since their dojo is officially closed. The boys brainstorm for a new training spot, and Tim leads them to an abandoned old delivery warehouse. After checking it out, they agree to make it their new base. Not long after, Eve shows up and helps them clean up the place. She tries to lighten the mood, teasing Mike about his dad's orientation, and even jokes that Mike might be gay too. Mike tries to bluff about his body count, but she sees right through his small D energy and playfully calls him out.
How many girls have you slept with?
I don't know, who the hell keeps count?
A bit later, Zach returns with boxing equipment he borrowed from Frankie, his old coach. Once they finish setting up the place, they call Case over to check out the new dojo they got for him. He walks around, taking it in, and spots a sandbag that Max provided. Max, showing off his old skills, gives it a kick that shifts it sideways. Case steps in, demonstrates a proper kick, and tells them to get back to training. He teaches them different submission techniques, and they go through various workouts. Day after day, they practice hard and start to become well-versed in mixed martial arts. One day, they're surprised to see Lyoto Mashida, the popular light heavyweight champion. Sparring with Case, they find out that Case used to train with him back in Brazil. Curious, they wonder why Case isn't more famous, and suspect it might be because he went to prison. Tim fills them in. That Case only served 2 years, thanks to good behavior. After Lyoto leaves, the guys get ready for that day's session, but their curiosity about Case's past lingers. Justin starts goofing around, throwing out ridiculous reasons for why Case might have gone to prison. Mike teases him back. Justin, not one to let things slide, gets even by bringing up how close Mike is to Eve. Mike brushes him off, calling him a clown, but Justin keeps pushing as he crosses the line and asks for Mike's mom's number. This all happens right after Case thanks them for setting up the dojo. Seeing the fight about to break out, Case tosses them into the cage to settle it. Mike fights fueled by anger, and Justin easily dodges his attacks, taunting him about his dad. When Mike thinks he finally has him, Justin reverses it and pins him down. As usual, Mike refuses to tap out and stays locked in until he passes out. Later that day, Eve checks in on Mike after hearing he got hurt fighting Justin. They chat briefly, but Kurt shows up and, without meaning to, cuts their talk short. One day at the dojo, Case notices Zach's slow reactions to strikes coming at his left side. He stops the session and asks Zach what's wrong with his eye.
What's wrong with your eye, man?
At first, Zach tries to deny anything's wrong, but eventually he admits that his left retina is partially detached. He's surprised when Case doesn't tell him to quit. Instead, Case says it's Zach's choice, insisting that he can keep fighting if he wants, but he should be ready to face the consequences. Case then advises Zach to switch to southpaw from now on and work on improving his footwork.
Work that Jenga into your footwork.
Meanwhile, while waiting for his mom outside the club, Tim spots a man attacking people and steps in and takes the guy down. The new head of security thanks him and offers him $400 a night to work as a guard, and Tim agrees on the condition that the man fire his mom. Later, Case pulls Mike aside to help him with his anger issues. He explains that fighting with anger narrows the mind and makes him sloppy. Instead, Case teaches Mike to turn the tables, rile up his opponent, and use their anger against them. During one of their sessions, Max shows up to check on them. He complains to Case that ticket sales are still low, and he needs to figure out how to afford a proper venue. Case tells him to use the dojo, and Max thanks him. When he spots the boys stretching, he films them and later edits the clips for some PR work. The promo works, and the guys start getting popular, especially Zach. He begins hooking up with a lot of women, ends things with Eve, and even starts thinking about backing out of the beatdown. Everything seems to be going their way, and Max finally hits his target ticket numbers. Later at the club, Mike tries to talk Zach out of quitting, but Zach says he doesn't see the point in risking his eyesight anymore, since he'd rather use what's left of it to find a ladies' bean and improve his head game. That same stripper from before shows up to greet Zach, and when she asks about Eve, Zach tells her they broke up, so she goes with him to the champagne room and gets stigmatized like never before. Later on, Justin sets a trap for the bullies who stabbed him before. When they take the bait, he takes them all on at once and easily beats them, finally getting payback for what they did to him. Excited, he rushes off to tell Case about it, but instead of praise, Case sends him away and warns Justin that getting mixed up in street fights could land him in prison for a crime he didn't commit, just like what happened to him. Realizing Justin might be a lost cause, Case expels him from the dojo.
Get out of here.
Well, no, come on. What do you mean? No.
Get out of here, Justin.
Meanwhile, Mike goes on a date with Eve. When his dad calls, he declines it, and even when Eve encourages him to talk things out with his father, Mike refuses. He explains that it's not his dad's sexuality that upsets him, it's the fact that his dad left them for someone else. Another call comes in, and he tells her it's about the beatdown, so she curiously asks him why he's in the tournament. Mike playfully teases her, and before he knows it, he slips in and ends up clapping her. The day before the beatdown premieres, Max finishes fixing up the dojo, getting it ready for the event. Unbeknownst to him, Justin is creeping around the place. After tidying up, Max returns the keys to Case and shares the good news that ticket sales are a hit, thanks largely to Zach's influence. But when Case drops the bomb that Zach won't be participating, Max nearly loses it and starts ranting about how the whole team seems to have issues. Desperate, he even asks Case to fight, but Case refuses. Max, ever nosy, checks out a family photo frame in Case's room, which annoys him. But finally, Case opens up. He explains that 6 years ago, he lost his family in a flood. His father was a boxer, but by the time he began his own career, his parents were already elderly. After the flood, Case spiraled. One night, he got into a fight at a club and ended up killing a man. The judge looked into his past and sentenced him for homicide. The bitter part? Case's lawyer told him that if he'd shot the man instead of using his fists, he probably would have walked free on self-defense grounds. Max consoles Case and excuses himself, but just as he's about to leave, some cops pull up and demand to search Case's home. They handcuff him, and soon after, they emerge claiming to have found a gun in his house. Case instantly calls them out for planting it. The lead officer tries to hit him, but Case knocks him down with a kick. Another officer nearly draws his weapon, but a colleague stops him. The cops swarm him, but Case holds his own, flooring them all before jumping into Max's car. Max, clearly shaken, tells Case he recorded the whole incident and has already posted it online.
Case, roughly 2,000 people are watching that thing right now.
They speed off, sharing the footage with different police departments across the state. The next day, they hear from a lawyer that Justin was behind the setup, and he'd planted his father's gun in Case's vehicle, hoping to frame him. Fortunately, Case's fingerprints weren't on the gun, but despite that, the legal process will take time, so Case isn't free just yet. When Tim and Zach hear what Justin did, they step up, telling Max they're in for the beatdown. That evening, the dojo is packed. The energy is electric as Max kicks off the tournament. While Mike gears up for his match, he warns Justin that everything between them ends tonight. But Justin smirks and says that it's just the beginning. The boys dominate their early matches. Tim even sets a new beatdown record for the fastest knockout in history. As Mike readies for his next fight, Justin tries to provoke him, but Mike stays locked in and focused. Mike's next opponent is Martinez, a tough boxer who injures Mike's right leg during the fight. But Mike keeps his cool and wins by submission. As the tournament advances, Mike and Zach eventually face each other. Mike tries to apologize for doing Eve, but Zach brushes it off, urging him to focus on the bigger battle ahead. Before the bell, Zach asks Mike not to strike his bad eye. Mike agrees, asking him to avoid his injured leg.
Watch the eye. The leg.
The match is fierce, and they're evenly matched, trading blows and submissions. Meanwhile, in a dark corner of the venue, Justin ambushes Tim in the bathroom, smashing his knee with a metal baton and leaving him unable to compete. Back in the ring, Mike finally edges out Zach with a submission lock, and Zach nearly blacks out, making everyone fear for his vision, but he pulls through. With Tim out, the final match is set. It's Mike versus Justin. Case shows up just in time, watching as Mike steps into the ring to face his ultimate test. The boys start trading blows, and at first, Mike has the upper hand, but Justin keeps targeting Mike's left leg, mistakenly thinking it's the injured one. Both fighters try to lock in submissions, but they're equally tough and refuse to quit. Although Mike lands several hard hits on Justin, the first round ends with both still standing. During the break, Mike spots Case and congratulates him on being there. He asks for advice, and Case tells him not to be too predictable with his moves, and since he has baited Justin, he should finish him. The second round begins, and Justin doubles down, hammering Mike's left leg again and again. He thinks Mike is on the verge of giving up, not realizing he's been played. Mike strikes with a precise punch, just like Case taught him. then uses that same injured leg to smash Justin's ugly mug with a nasty kick. Seizing the moment, Mike rushes him, takes him down, and despite Justin's last-ditch efforts, locks in a submission hold and snaps his shoulder, winning the fight. As Mike celebrates, Justin tries to pull a fast one from behind, but Mike, clearly watching too much Roman Reigns, drops him with a Superman punch, knocking him out cold and ending it for good. The crowd erupts. Eve runs to Mike and kisses him as everyone cheers his hard-fought victory. Meanwhile, Case gets handed a phone. John McCarthy is on the line, asking if he is ready to return to MMA, and Case gives him a firm, "I'm ready." Finally, Mike answers his father's call and agrees to talk things out. After hanging up, he pulls Eve close and kisses her passionately. The end. Thank you for sticking to the end of my video. Please do me the biggest favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you next video.